Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Kinsta Talks. Today we're joined by a very active member of the WordPress community, Milana Cap. Hi Milana.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Good.
Excellent. I'll continue my introduction because I have to finish that. Milana is a developer, frequent speaker at tech and WordPress conferences across Europe, dedicated open source contributor, and a very passionate community organizer. She's someone who truly embodies the spirit of WordPress by not only using the platform, but actively working to improve it and bring people together. In this episode, we're going to dive into her new talk on accessibility, explore the fascinating world of tech conferences from both the speakers and organizers' perspective, and we'll learn something about the important work in reviving documentation focus within the WordPress release squad. Milana, I'm very happy to have you here with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Nice. That's very cool. Okay, I have some questions prepared, always prepared. Before I pressed the record button, I asked Milana if she was ready. Her answer was,
I'm born ready.
"You're born ready." Exactly. So I'm just going to dive into the questions and let's have a nice chat. So your new talk, Improve Accessibility with the HTML API, sounds very relevant. And for our audience, could you give us the elevator pitch of this? What's the core takeaway and that you want people to know?
The core takeaway, I think, would be that you can actually uh, improve accessibility of every website you work on without thinking too much about accessibility. And you can do that by putting a HTML tag processor into your tests, so you can test if your markup, pardon, markup has all accessibility attributes. And if not, you can even offer a solution to developers. So basically, the thing that would be the most time consuming would be the creation of the tests, and maybe go even that far and hire accessibility expert to help you with that. But basically, what I saw over the years, especially learning from Rian, I saw, that there are few most common things. And if it's too hard to learn, it's not. But if it's too hard to learn, write it down somewhere and it's already written down. So just save links, go there and make sure, write tests. And with HTML API, you can do that very easily. So you can put it in your CI and make sure that no pull request is merged until everything is accessibility ready. So you don't have to, have a meeting when the site is published to say, oh, we are bad with accessibility. And, you can implement that into your workflow. But also there are other, situations when you are working on someone else's plugin or a theme, so you cannot really modify directly. Again, you can use HTML API in different places or different ways to make sure that accessibility is met, and that everybody will love that, not just people who have accessibility needs, but also Google and Web Core Vitals and SEO. I mean, it's sad that we have to use SEO to sell accessibility to clients, but it's gonna improve everything. So I think this talk could help people loosen up the stiff around accessibility.
Okay, cool. About this sounds very interesting, and I am very interested with my developer background, which I have been neglecting the last few years, but I'm still aware what has happened, what is happening there. For the people that don't know exactly what the HTML API does, could you do a short overview of what it does?
A short no,
Yeah, I said
because
short, yes.
short no. Well, what it does for now, what we have in production ready is one class for us to use. There are more things, but HTML tag processor is getting, so you pass a string to it, whichever string, and if it finds the HTML, it will process it. Now, With tag processor, what you are looking for is specific tags. So you're looking anchor or div or paragraph or image. And then when you find it, you can modify its attributes. So if it's image, you can search for alt attributes. If it's anchor, you can search for, you know, uh, href or, whatever you are looking for. So that is what tag processor doing, but it has a bigger sibling, which is HTML processor, and it's working on more nested structures. It doesn't care about attributes. It cares about the whole tag. So it knows about the ending tag. It also knows about inner content. It can modify it, read it. It can wrap and unwrap tags. So basically with HTML API, whatever we were doing with jQuery, like remember the first time you loaded jQuery, you wanted to change the class. So that's what tag processor is doing. And everything else, basically all the makeup that you're doing with JavaScript, you won't be using JavaScript anymore. It's all in HTML API. And the most important thing, because I see a lot of people, not even being aware that HTML API exists in WordPress, but they know about Interactivity API. Well, news. Interactivity API is based on HTML API. It wouldn't exist without it. So the part of Interactivity API that is using directives in HTML, all those attributes, that's powered by HTML API. So all the good things that are happening right now in WordPress and will in the future are based on HTML API, and author is Dennis Snell.
All right, that's very clear explanation. Um, I can see the HTML API as kind of a base where the interactivity API then has been built upon and uses all the methods and
Well,
that are in the HTML
yeah, that's
API.
that part that is connected to communicating with the server. So, the server side of it. The client side is JavaScript.
All right, cool. Nice to know. I don't remember exactly, but have you already given talks about the HTML API at WordPress events and both non-WordPress events?
Yes, yes.
Yes, because I do remember that you said that you've seen less interest for the HTML API, as you just said, from WordPress specific events. How do you think that comes?
Well, not for HTML API, for improving accessibility with HTML API.
Sorry, yes,
Yeah.
that's more
So,
specific. Yes.
but it's still very early. I'm still working on that talk. That talk wasn't. I didn't give that talk anywhere else, anywhere at all yet. But from when I started applying with that talk to conferences, PHP conferences are more interested in that than WordPress conferences. And it was similar when I was talking about, there was a talk about documentation a few years ago, and specifically how documentation team is working on the whole WordPress documentation and what are problems and how we solve that. The WordPress community wasn't interested in that at all, but no, other communities, and especially PHP community, were interested. So I think about why PHP conferences might be interested more is because they are actually falling late behind WordPress on awareness of accessibility. I was at PHP conference in Berlin, IPC Berlin, and it was in June. And there I heard one speaker in a hallway talking to other people about some accessibility problems and how they come around to see why accessibility is important. And I remember hearing that same thing in WordPress community like 7 years ago. So I think right now with this new law that will be enforced in WordPress in Europe, I don't know if it's already enforced.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think this new law actually made other communities aware of that. WordPress was just thanks to Rian, it was naturally interested in accessibility many, many years ago. So basically, we know the importance. Why we still cannot force it more, I don't know, but we are aware of importance, and we are aware that it's not just for people who has accessibility needs, it's for everyone, and it's improving the complete user experience and website rating and everything. So I think that is the reason why WordPress, what I saw so far is that WordPress events are choosing interactivity API over accessibility talk from me. So maybe because the interactivity API is new and they want to learn more about that, and accessibility we already know. So that's my explanation so far.
Accessibility, we already know. That's a big statement because there's a lot of things people don't know. I just had the interview with Drian today, so I have received a deep dive in accessibility and in updates, what she's working on. So, and while you were talking, I was thinking about if accessibility, at least in a technical level, is built into WordPress, and you can use that together with the HTML API to basically produce. I don't know if I can say 100%, but let's call it 100%. You can generate 100% good HTML code, accessible code, which is on a technical level accessible. That would basically make accessibility a thing that people don't need to think about anymore
Yeah.
because it's already built in.
Yeah, but I'm talking about custom code. I mean, WordPress also, Rian knows much more about what core has inside. So far, what I know, there are some very accessible parts of it, but there are also some parts that still need improvement. But the biggest problem is the custom code. Being in plugin review team, I see a lot of custom code being really big problem. The code that we get in plugins and in themes, that is the most problematic part, and I think that's where we need to keep saying this needs to be accessible, the modals and images, and I mean everything. Each headings needs to be in specific order, and that's not even the developers area of control. It's something what editorials are putting there and authors. So we still need to talk about it. It's just on
Absolutely.
different levels.
Yes. Yeah, totally understand. So you're developing this new talk. What kind of conferences do you have in the agenda for the next months?
Oh, for the next month, I have very soon coming in 2 weeks, WP Suomi. So that is independent Finland, Finnish event. I'm really looking forward to it. I love Finnish community. After that, in a couple of weeks, so at the end of October, I have IPC Munich, and they wanted accessibility talk and the
Nice.
HTML API talk. So most of the time, those PHP conferences want to have more than one talk. And then I have at the end of November, WordCamp Netherlands, where I'll
Oh, I know
see,
that.
yeah, I'll see her in person.
Yes.
And I wasn't in Netherlands event. I think the same as Finland, about 2 years. So I'm also, yeah, 2020 or even more. I don't know.
2020.
I think I was 2022 last time
Okay.
it was in a zoo,
Oh, yeah, that was in the zoo. Yeah, that's correct. The last time it was in a mini town.
and it will be the same this
It will
year.
be in the same area
So
right
yeah,
now.
it's even more than Finland, and I also like here Netherlands people.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so I'm looking forward to that too, and I'm still waiting for responses for a couple of more conferences, so we'll see.
Okay, excellent. That's nice to know your agenda a little bit. So if people are interested in seeing your talk and they are in Finland or in Munich or in the Netherlands when these events happen, please come over and say hi to Milana.
Yeah.
Beyond the speaking part, you're also involved in organizing. And I have heard from you that you are planning a conference in your hometown. Is that right?
Yes. So a WordPress community exists in my hometown since 2016. And the next year we are planning to have next year for the first time a WordPress conference in our city. And it's not going to be the WordCamp, it's going to be Dev Day. So it's like those next gen
Yes.
conferences. And because I've been kind of involved in organizing meetups in my city since the beginning, I was trying to be, behind the scenes and have someone who will take care of that. But I was always, from behind, oh, we can do this, we can do that. And they're like, maybe not this time. But I was always trying to make Novi Sad center of developer talks. And now I think we are going to do that because now for the past couple of years, we have people constantly, the same people coming, and some of them are since 2016. And, they show very much interest in development topics, but also into nurturing and expanding community. And some of them were organizing with me WordCamp Vršac that happened in September. So after a long break since 2019, this was the first event in Serbia. And I suggested for people from my city to join the organization team to see how it's happening so that I'm not the only one with experience of organizing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But in Serbia, it's never just this city. So Vršac was organized by the whole community. Everyone that you know from Serbia that are, attending events all over the world, we were all organizing together and had a meeting after that and planned what's going to be next. So it's going to be Novi Sad and after that Belgrade. And we all work together, not to overlap, to help each other and whatever, I know I can do that, something else better, you're gonna do that. And I really love the way community in Serbia functions.
Really cool. Nice to hear. Very good. You said a few minutes back that you wanted to be involved and you wanted to have a role like behind the curtains. I know you for a few years now, and I I think that is a very difficult role for you to
Yeah.
have to stay behind the scenes, which is the right phrasing. What drives you to keep on organizing these kind of events?
Well, because I want to have events. I want to see people. I want to talk to them. I want to know what they do, how they do it. So in the past couple of years, I don't have anyone to organize besides me. Actually, I have since last year. We have a C sharp developer. Just seeing that there are WordPress events. He attended one and he was like, I want to help. So he's helping, he's organizing WordPress meetups in Novi Sad. And before that, it was just me for some time. And I don't have a time to do the usual meetup, have a speaker, have a talk. I don't have time for that to, just to find someone who want to speak and then make sure they are available on the date where we have the space available. And it's just too much for me. That's why I always try to stay away. So when I was left alone with that, I wouldn't say responsibility. I don't have to do that. I just want to do that. But I don't want to find speakers. So we had a different form of meetups where I would bring my laptop and I would hook it up. And we call those meetups Bring Your WordPress Problem. So anybody could come and say, I have this team and this plugin and I want to do this and I cannot do that. And then we would do that on the spot. And the beautiful thing is that I don't do a lot of things. Like I don't do page builders. I don't do many things. I don't do WooCommerce websites. So a lot of things I have no idea how to do, but there are other people. I'm just on my laptop and he's telling me, oh, now you should go there and you go that and you get that plugin and I'm just doing it. And then we fix someone's problem and we're like, yay, you know. So that was very kind of meetup I like. And I want to see that. I want to learn from others, and I want to share what I've learned with others, so we can help each other. That is the to me, that is the point of community. If I know what you know and what you are capable of doing, and someone sends me, hey, I have a website, I need help, and I tell them, I don't know how to do that, but that person can help you. I love doing those things, and that's why I do it.
So to summarize, I don't mean it like that. I like your complete answer, definitely. But to summarize it's just, well, not just, it's the people
Hmm.
that drive you to organize events, bring the people together, introduce them to each other, share their experiences, help each other, those kind of things. And that's a great drive to use, definitely.
Yeah, and make
Really cool.
friends, and
Yes.
we sometimes organize barbecue, within communities. So you want to have friends, that's my
Yeah.
wider family.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, it sounds pretty awesome. Okay, I want to shift to your open source contributions and your WordPress contributions. And you are working with the WordPress documentation team to put something together. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, t- two releases, WordPress releases, didn't have documentation focus role. And looking back, I was documentation focus lead and co-lead for releases 5.8 to 6.2. And before that, so I was the first person from documentation team actually doing documentation for release. Before that, there were people doing documentation for release that we in documentation team didn't even know who this person is. That person never communicated to us with us. And we were supposed to, document WordPress, and we were completely out of line. Things that were supposed to be updated for new release, we didn't even know about that. And we didn't have priorities or whatever. We were just doing what we were doing. So I went to applied to do the focus lead for 5.8 to actually learn the process and, bring it into documentation team so we can all work on that, because documenting WordPress is insane for one person. So when we started, there was one Google spreadsheet file, and that was the whole management of the documentation for end user, for the dev notes, field guide, for everything. So we made the system. We now have projects in GitHub, and some automations done and all of that, and we know exactly how to. We have templates for issues for specific version, and for we have priority, like this is urgent end user, this is not urgent, this is dev node, this is field guide, this is just developer documentation. And we spread that between three main persons who are just managing those, and then the whole documentation team doing that. And then every time there is WordCamp somewhere during the release cycle, and someone is there at WordCamp, we make sure at contributor day there is documentation table, and they're working on this release, to just push it. And then suddenly release squad doesn't have any person for documentation, and we let it, the first release to see how it's going to be. So apparently the release squad have no idea what documentation team is doing behind the scenes. They thought it was just us, collecting dev notes and that's it. They didn't know. So we let the first release to go, and it was mess. Basically, we did all the things that we were usually doing. And then the second release came, and they were like, we're not going to use a documentation role at all. And then we went to, complain about that,
Yes.
because, a lot of things can be done, like spread between different teams and all of that. But documentation, I don't think you can do that. There has to be a person who is going to monitor all that. And that is one thing, to just be in constant communication with documentation team and know the process where to put what, because documenting release is a lot of manual work. No one wants to do that. I remember when I was doing 5.8, I was alone and I needed 1 week to go through every 400 plus track tickets just to read them, to mark them as this is dev node, this is field guide, this is, so we are trying to make developers who are working on tickets, they already know if it should be documented. So just put the label. Don't make me read 10 years old thread.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a lot of manual work.
Yes.
And this is just track. And then there are, thousands of tickets in Gutenberg where you track the end user documentation. So there's a lot of that. And we are now, negotiating with the release squad and core team to help automate some things, to document some things, to educate people, but also to have a role there, documentation role, because on the bottom line, it's important for new contributors, because if they see that documentation role is not important, that they cannot show up in noteworthy contributors, they don't want to contribute. And we are, over years since I'm in documentation team, which is almost 10 years, we had like ups and downs with numbers of people being contributors. And now we are back to very like handful. And it's insane when you think that there is software that powers 43% of internet and like 3 people are actual active documentation contributors. So we need all the help we can get, and removing importance of documentation from, I mean, we all know it's important, but people who are coming from outside who are new and they see documentation is not important in release, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, it's a very difficult topic. As you said, with the large percentage of market share that WordPress has, and you mentioned 3 active contributors to documentation. That is well, it's not even out of balance. The scale fell on the floor, it's absolutely out of balance. I have one last question for you for this interview, and it is about reviving the docs focus role.
Hmm.
What do you hope is going to be the result when that role has been reintroduced?
I hope that anybody can take over that role. And I hope that anybody will take over. I don't want this to be knowledge just for documentation team. So my perception is when you are contributing to open source, your main goal is to enable others to do what you do, to replace you. Don't want to lock knowledge and experience anywhere. I want to create system where anybody can do that. And I want to create system where people will want to do that. Like, have that in your experience. Like I was leading, documentation for WordPress release, and that means something.
Yeah, definitely. And we all totally respect and really, really, really are really happy that you have taken on these roles in documentation. So, yeah, I basically want to thank you for this interview. I think we have touched a lot of points on what you are working on and how that affects not only the WordPress space, but also the space in PHP and maybe even other spaces concerning the accessibility and the HTML API part. I hope organizing the Dev Day in Novi Sad is going to be a success. For the record, you're not going to do a behind the scenes role,
No,
right?
no, no, no.
No, you
I'm
didn't manage to do
yeah.
that. Okay. Well, I wish you all the best organizing those. I wish you lots of success with your upcoming presentations. Looking forward to see any recordings of those. And of course, I'm happy to see you on WordCamp the Netherlands at the end of November.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Milana, for your
Thank
time,
you.
and have a great day and see you soon.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.